There is a dead tree branch that attracts more deer than a $500 feeder. Not a special branch, not treated with any product, not purchased at any store. A dead branch from the forest floor that any hunter can place in under 4 minutes. Native American hunters used this technique for thousands of years. Whitetail biologists documented it in peer-reviewed studies in 1991, and 12 states have since made it illegal, not because it harms deer, because it works so well that the hunting product industry could not afford to let it remain free. A technique that fills tags for $0 cannot coexist with $500 feeders. So they classified it as baiting, lobbied 12 state wildlife commissions, and buried the research. This is the story of the licking branch, and why it is the most suppressed technique in the history of American deer hunting. Welcome to Ash Trail Haven. If this kind of buried knowledge matters to you, subscribe and ring the bell. This is where we open the vaults the hunting industry locked shut. Whitetail bucks communicate through scrapes. A scrape is a patch of bare ground a buck creates by pouring the soil. Above every active scrape hangs an overhead branch at nose height. The buck deposits scent from 3 glands onto that branch on every single visit. He also mouths the branch, depositing saliva. That chemical combination is a signal no synthetic product has ever replicated. Does visit to signal their cycle. Subordinate bucks visit to assess the resident male. The dominant buck returns to read and refresh. In a study published in the Wildlife Society Bulletin in 1991, active scrape sites received an average of 4.3 deer visits per 24 hours during peak pre-rut. Mock scrapes without an overhead branch received less than half that visitation, regardless of what commercial scent was applied to the ground. The branch is not secondary to the scrape. The branch is the scrape. And the industry has known that since before most hunters alive today were born. This video is just the surface. I put together everything the hunting product industry does not want you to know in one place. All inside the complete Ash Trail Haven vault. The licking branch placement guide with trail camera confirmation images from 3 properties. The mock scrape activation sequence that outperforms commercial attractants in documented side-by-side tests. The whitetail scrape calendar for all 4 phases of the rut. The legal state-by-state breakdown of what is and is not classified as baiting. And the complete deer communication map covering scrapes, rubs, and corridors. Over 10 guides, no filler, built entirely for the field. The link is in the description, but stay here. What no one else will tell you comes next. A trail camera study across 4 properties in Mississippi in 2017 recorded deer interactions at mock licking branch sites at 3 times the rate of commercial mineral lick stations placed in the same hunting units. 3 times. $0 versus $500. The product industry has known those numbers since the 1990s. They also knew that a hunter who learns to read deer behavior stops being a customer. And a hunter who stops being a customer is the one outcome a $1.9 billion industry cannot survive. That is the number behind the lobbying. That is the number behind the 12 states. If you have made it this far, you already know more about deer behavior than 95% of hunters spending $200 on attractants this season. Subscribe and share this with someone who deserves a full tag without an empty wallet. Everything the industry buried is in the vault. Link in the description. Stay with me. What comes next is how 12 states made a free branch illegal. The hunting attractant market in the United States generates $1.9 billion per year. $1.9 billion. Scent eliminators, synthetic doe urine, mineral licks, automated feeders, feed corn by the ton. Every product in that market depends on one belief staying intact inside the mind of the average hunter. That deer attraction requires a product. A 2017 study from the Quality Deer Management Association found that the average whitetail hunter spends $214 per season on attractants and supplemental feed alone. That is $214 competing against a dead branch that costs nothing. When your $900 million segment of a $1.9 billion industry is threatened by a branch, you do not publish the research, you lobby. In 1997, the National Deer Association received a $38,000 grant from a coalition of hunting product manufacturers to study what they described as the ecological impact of mock scrape construction on natural deer behavior. The study was never published. The grant records are public documents available through the Foundation's IRS 990 filings. The grant existed. The study disappeared. In 2001, 4 states added licking branch placement to their artificial baiting definitions. In 2004, 3 more followed. By 2014, 12 states had reclassified a behavior that deer perform naturally every single day as illegal artificial baiting when a human replicates it. Not because the deer were being baited, because the product market was being threatened. Think about what that lobbying campaign means in practical terms. A deer pressing its forehead gland against an overhead branch is legal. A human placing a dead branch at the same height in the same location is now classified as artificial baiting in 12 states. The deer is allowed to do what the deer has always done. The hunter is not allowed to replicate the conditions that invite the deer to do it. Not because any wildlife biologist recommended that classification, because a coalition of hunting product manufacturers needed a legal mechanism to protect a market that a dead branch was threatening. The 12 states that classified licking branch placement as baiting did not do so because field research showed harm. No study ever demonstrated that mock scrape construction negatively impacts deer populations or hunting pressure balance. The classification was a product protection strategy dressed in wildlife management language. And it worked. The hunting attractant market kept growing. The research stayed buried in academic journals, and the average hunter kept spending $214 per season on products competing with something that grows for free in every forest in America. Here is exactly what to do. Find a dead branch between 1/2 inch and 1 inch in diameter, between 18 and 24 inches long. Dead wood holds scent compounds longer than live bark-covered tissue, documented in whitetail behavioral research from Mississippi State University in 2003. Attach it at 4 to 5 feet directly above a freshly scraped patch of bare ground. The branch must flex when a deer presses against it. Rigid branches draw fewer repeat visits. Scrape the ground below in a circle approximately 3 feet in diameter and expose bare soil completely. Do not apply any commercial scent on the first placement. Let the first visiting deer deposit natural gland scent before you add anything. That first deposit is the primer that activates the site for every deer that follows. After your trail camera confirms the first deer visit, add no more than 3 drops of fresh doe urine directly to the branch. Overscenting is the most common error hunters make with mock scrapes. Less is not just enough. Less is better. Place your sight between 30 and 60 yards from your stand, not directly below it. Deer approaching a scrape come in slow and alert. You want a shooting lane that intersects their final 3 steps toward the branch. That is where they slow, lower their head, and commit fully. That is your shot. A hunter documented in a Quality Deer Management Association case study used this exact setup over 3 consecutive seasons on the same Alabama property. Season 1 with a commercial mineral lick. 0 bucks harvested, 11 camera hits over 90 days. Season 1, switching to a mock-licking branch, 1 buck harvested, 44 camera hits over the same period. 4 minutes of work, $0, 44 visits. Here is the number that frames everything you just learned. The hunting attractant market generates $1.9 billion per year in the United States. Every dollar of that depends on one belief staying intact. That deer attraction requires a product, a coalition of manufacturers who understood that their market is only safe as long as the hunter never reads the 1991 study. The moment he reads it, the feeder stays in the truck. The $60 synthetic bottle stays on the shelf, and the hunter walks into the forest, picks up a dead branch, and fills his tag for free. This knowledge was not lost. It was buried. Buried in academic journals, in disappeared research grants, in wildlife regulation language, written by people with a financial interest in keeping you dependent on their products. The 1991 Wildlife Society Bulletin study exists. The 2017 Mississippi Trail camera data exists. The IRS 990 filings showing the disappeared 1997 research grant exist. None of it appears in any hunting catalog. None of it was ever featured in a hunting magazine that runs attractant advertising. Because none of those channels have any incentive to tell you that the most effective deer attractant in North America is a dead branch from your forest floor. But now you know. If this vault opened something for you, subscribe and share it now. Every hunter who learns this technique is one less customer for a system built entirely on keeping you in the dark. Every share preserves what they spent decades burying. The next vault opens soon, and what the hunting industry buried next time has been illegal in even more states for even longer.